Hey, friends, and happy Monday afternoon. I hope that you are doing well. I am coming at you today with another kitchen table talk, although I am not in my kitchen. I'm actually in my office today, but I have a word for you today. And I'm hoping that it will be encouragement to you today and it will uplift you today on this Monday. I was reading in an old journal of mine. Now, I keep these old journals just like this one, and I keep them from year to year. And I oftentimes will go back and look at things that I have written, and I keep these journals. This particular one is called kind of like a catch-all journal, and I keep these from year to year, and I fill them with things like quotes and Bible verses and things that people have said to me and notes that people have given me and just things that I want to remember in a given year. And I happened to have one up here on my desk from 2017. So this one is through the year. It's through about October of 2017. And so I wanted to go back and look, like, what was I wrestling through in that year? What kinds of things was I learning? And I happened upon something that was really special to me then. And of course, who knew how special it was actually going to be in the year 2021 as well? I just recently started doing a prayer through the Psalms with a group of women on a Zoom call every Thursday night. And we started our first one last week, last Thursday. And we're going through the Psalms and we're looking for prayer patterns in the Psalms. And last week we did Psalm 17, and this week we are preparing for Psalm 22. And I wasn't even really beginning even to think about what Thursday night's Zoom was going to look like when I ran across in my journal Psalm 22 from 4 years ago in 2017. And I want to just read you one of the verses from Psalm 22 that really spoke to my heart today. It's a familiar one. Maybe you have heard it. Maybe you have seen it before and you have even maybe studied it or talked about it. But this is an amazing verse, and I just want to share it with you today. It's Psalm 22, it's verse 3, and it says this: "Yet you are holy, enthroned on the praises of Israel." So talking about God here, and let me just set it up. I guess I should have read the verse before it. It says this in verse 2. It says, "Every day I call to you, my God, but you do not answer. Every night you hear my voice, but I find no relief." And so this is like this challenge that this psalmist is talking about here, is that, I'm praying to you and I'm not feeling like I'm getting any answers, and I am bewildered and I'm going through this stuff and I don't feel like you're actually hearing me. But then it says in verse 3, "Yet." And I love that. I love that it starts with this word, yet. And it says, "Yet you are holy, enthroned on the praises of Israel." Think about this. It is saying you are actually enthroned, like your presence, God, is on the praise of your people. That is amazing. That is amazing to think about, that when we praise, when we are giving our praise, that the Lord's presence actually rests upon that praise. One of the notes that I put in my Bible is, if you want God's presence, then praise. Then praise. He inhabits those praises. He sits upon those praises. He encamps upon those praises. And so in those seasons, in those times when you're feeling discouraged, when you're feeling overwhelmed, when you're feeling tired, when you're feeling anxious, when you're feeling fearful and you're doubting, or whatever those negative feelings that we're feeling are for us, and it's a reality that we feel those things, all we have to do in order to feel His presence is praise. I have a great example of this. Last week, I was having a really hard day. I was homesick. I was missing my friends and my family. I was missing my daughter, who's 2,000 miles away from me in California. And I was really having a trying, struggling day. And I had some errands to run, and I got in my car, and I really wasn't feeling it. Normally, I'm like, turn on the praise music, right, and like start jamming as soon as I get in. And I wasn't feeling it. I was having a really hard time. And I remembered this verse. I remembered this verse and I thought, you know what? The way that I can pray his presence right here and now is to praise. And so I actually forced myself to turn on the radio, to turn on some praise music, and I began to feel my heart soften. I began to shift because why? His presence inhabited, his praise, or his presence was enthroned upon my praise. And so in that moment, everything shifted. In that moment, everything changed. I'd also wrote this down as it relates to God dwells in the midst of our praise. I wrote this. I said, you raise when you praise, you remain when you complain. And so it doesn't do us any good to complain about our situation, right? We know that there is power found in our words. And so when we use our vocabulary, when we use our mouth, when we use the tongue to praise, then we do away with the complaining. We do away with that grumbling spirit. And when we praise, it ushers in his divine presence. So when we praise, we raise. We go up higher. We take ourselves to an elevation in our nature. We raise ourselves to an elevated place in the heavens where God is. We raise when we praise, but we remain when we complain. One of the things that I heard a pastor say years ago, and I have it written down here in my Bible, it says this for Psalm 22:3. It says, if God is enthroned upon our praise, if that's true, if he actually is enthroned upon the praises of his people, then who is enthroned in our complaining? That's a tough one. And that is one of the things that I have been wrestling through for a while now in my life. And I have not mastered this one iota. Listen, just last night I was complaining of a back hurting, and I was complaining that my neck was sore, and I was complaining of the weather, and I found myself doing all of these things and then going, oh my word, I do not have his enthroned presence upon the words that come out of my mouth that are filled with grumbling and complaining. Only the praise. He is enthroned upon the praise of his people. And so I really, in that moment last night, was convicted. And when I came to this word today, I knew that it was for me, but I also hoped that it was for somebody else. So I just want to encourage you today. What are you praising? Are you praising God? Because it is in that moment when you do that he is enthroned upon that praise. It is in that moment that you usher in the divine presence of Jesus on the words that you are proclaiming in praise from your mouth. So let's be praisers today. Let's do away with complaining. Let's try our hardest to raise up, to raise our praise so that we can have the promise of his presence in our life today. So I hope this is an encouragement to you, and I hope that you will dig into Psalm 22 and praise him today on this Monday, March the 1st. Have an awesome, awesome day, friends. Bye-bye.